There is always somebody there to help and support you. Sometimes it is a very lonely job.
The GP Task Force is a fantastic concept.
It has made a big difference to feel that there's somebody there supporting us.
I have to be honest, the team has been amazingly supportive.
I'm really proud of what we've managed to achieve really in the last 3 or 4 years. Since we launched in 2016, we've really developed our work streams and our programmes.
The General Practice Task Force is an organisation that works really closely with the local medical committee to provide wraparound support for Derbyshire general practice. So whether that's for individual GPs and practice managers or surgeries. And we work along 3 predominant areas, and that is people struggling with their workforce, workload, or those wishing to work at scale.
We're passionate about helping GP practices as a whole workforce. We do lots of support for GPs themselves, but also for practice management and the whole team.
We know that general practice has always been evolving. It's been through a really tough time, particularly over the last 18 months when it probably reached its nadir. And we want to see practices continue to thrive as they always have done. But they need additional help, they need additional support, and they need to be able to come together. So we really feel very strongly that the GP Task Force is providing that real wraparound support to help those practices not just survive on a day-to-day basis, but really thrive.
We want to really help GPs to maximise what they do really well, i.e. the clinical aspects, so we can potentially help with some of that business management.
We're trying to be really proactive in what's needed, trying to flex our offer to practices and those people that work in practices.
Certainly the task force has been helpful to my organisation. After I'd been in post about 3 or 4 months, the partners began to speak to the surgery next door about the prospect of a merger. And so that became the full focus of everything that we did from that moment on. They facilitated a meeting with a practice manager from the north of Derbyshire who had been through several mergers, and she was a great help to give us a plan, something to work towards. I think if we hadn't have had the support and somewhere to go for asking advice and people to come and see us, I think it could have been very different.
That's why we're here, to help GPs, to help their practice staff survive, but also thrive in the current challenges of transformation. We don't just help practices that are in need, but anybody like federations, GP organisations, etc. that need support. We'll try to be as responsive as we can. Where we differ as a GP task force in that we use people that actually work and live and breathe general practice every day, rather than perhaps other companies that use management consultants or business consultants.
My role as a change facilitator is really sort of to help practices that might be struggling with certain things or certain issues within practice, or trying to overcome problems. A couple of things that I've personally been involved with is workflow. We've looked at how we could distribute that differently. Does everything need to be seen by a GP? Can it go somewhere else? Can there be other actions actually done to that document before the GP sees it to make life easier?
I was really grateful to receive some support from the GP Task Force. We came together as a group of 10 practices to try and start to unify some of our policies, our procedures, and the way in which we operated as businesses. And one of the challenges that we had was having the time and the capacity and the expertise. And so we approached the GP Task Force, which was very straightforward. It was a very simple conversation that we had. And the GP Task Force looked at what options were available and provided us with a series of possible things that we could do.
If we can take some of the headache out of knowing where to turn for support, that's where we aim to be, the first point of contact really for any practices that need help, any GPs that need help, or practice managers too.
GP Champions project was fantastic. We got to go in and visit and speak to a whole group of third-year registrars. And it was really interesting to hear some of their preconceptions, and sometimes you become a bit blind to that when you're focused on individual trainees and looking at their educational progression.
I think it made me think differently about general practice, because never in a room had I seen a prison GP who was so enthusiastic, had left the partnership and said, I love this. Never in the room had I seen people who'd worked with the PCTs and other people relate their experiences, their challenges. And I could see the enthusiasm in the registrars as well to see, hold on, I'm sure we all have a constricted view of what we're going to do when we come out. But then if you expose them to such a lot of variety and all the options, I thought that was really useful.
The GP Academy is a unique project that came out of an idea from the University of Nottingham and Health Education England regarding workforce demand. So we approached the task force in Derbyshire, knowing that Derbyshire itself has a workforce crisis even as we speak at the moment, to say would they be willing to support us and work with us to develop this unique project for Derbyshire, with the hope then if it was successful to roll it out on a wider field. And thankfully the task force said absolutely yes.
The Teaching Academy has opened my eyes to the opportunity of teaching within general practice. So the opportunity to not just teach medical students, but also my role as a GP to teach my colleagues, and all, including sort of practice nurses, reception staff, everybody really. There's an opportunity for me to help in some way.
I think the GP Task Force is a fantastic concept.
I think for general practice to survive to the next 5 years, 10 years, we have got to use innovation, we've got to develop, we can't do what we've always done. And actually having somebody we can dip in and out as and when we need it, just saves so much time and expertise. It's just invaluable. They're a partner, definitely a partner.